and welcome to the ESI Africa studio. Today I'm speaking to Muzi Mkhize, who is the regulator member for NERSA. Hello, Muzi.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Let's start off with something easy. Could you please explain your role at NERSA?
Maybe for me, the starting point would be to explain NERSA as an entity. Because NERSA is the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. It is a creature of statute, established as a regulatory authority in terms of the National Energy Regulator Act, Act number 40 of 2004. In that act, it regulates three sectors, being the electricity sector, the pipe gas sector, as well as the petroleum pipelines sector, in terms of the various specific legislations that are involved there, being the Electricity Regulation Act, which has just been recently amended. It was assented to in August last year, and then came into effect on the 1st of January this year. And also in terms of gas, is a pipe gas, it's a gas act, Act 41 of 2003. And then we've also got the Petroleum Pipelines Act, Act number 60 of 2003. With that, in terms of Section 3, it then establishes NERSA as one regulatory body with 4 regulator members, which we call them full-time regulator members. One is for electricity regulation primarily, other one primarily for pipe gas, and then for petroleum pipelines, who is myself in terms of regulation. Then you've got one member that gets designated as the CEO, being responsible for the day-to-day running of the organization. Then there are 5 part-time regulator members. Out of the 5, you get a chairperson and a deputy chairperson. And then out of that, you then get this body of 9 persons who make up the regulator as we know it. And then we take collective decisions with the regulator, which we call the energy regulator, separate from the NERSA itself, as a support function to the regulator. And then the regulators got sub-committees and committees, to like a board will do. So there's a time when we're looking at things from a governance perspective, from a regulatory perspective, as well as from a point of view of adjudication of whatever licenses or decisions that we've got to take. So we take those administrative decisions as a collective.
Okay. So that's how it works.
And on the members primarily responsible for regulatory areas, they then must provide strategic guidance to those areas and be able to then engage themselves in the decision making around that, chairing the subcommittees that are focusing on those areas, being this electricity subcommittee, the pipe gas subcommittee, and the petroleum pipeline subcommittee. Yeah.
Now, you were at Inlet today, and you were discussing the topic of combating illegal connections. Now, how do you see social media assisting stakeholders to better manage these illegal connections?
From my side, I think, like I was highlighting during the conference, the important thing is that we must understand that there is context to everything. And we need to then look at it from that point of view, to see where we're coming from, to see what are the issues that are causing the kind of a situation that we find ourselves in. Because there are certain things that you cannot divorce from the act, which are, like I would say, they're like putting oil to the fire. Some of them, I would say, these calls for people to just occupy space, it's problematic. There should be alignment with the political side of things as well as administration, because at municipal level, that is where really politics is closer to administration than one would look at national level. So those are some of the things that I said. Let's be able to take this into cognizance, and also require of municipalities to have bylaws that will assist in combating this and be seen to be doing what we are supposed to do. I think that social media, like any media avenue, it would help a great deal in terms of taking the message out there, knowing exactly what these uniques are supposed to do in terms of combating illegal connections, and then kind of holding them into account to ensure that they do what they are supposed to do as a municipality, and not only municipalities. Because I think the other problem in our country is that there is this tendency of knowing best what another person ought to do than what you ought to do. And I think that with some bigotry in the country because of our apartheid past and the disparities that we have, it causes a problem in terms of us building walls instead of building bridges when we communicate. And I think that is important to then make sure that we build those bridges. You seek to understand another person's standpoint. In as much as you've got an argument, consider another person's counter argument. And I think the social media then can play a great role because the ordinary citizens are able to comment. And I think it's going to be important for those in power to also look at those comments and take action, because you could have a situation where there's anger bubbling up. And I've seen in some instances, like I stay in the municipality of the Tshwane Metro. I've seen publications of the city out and out to combat illegal connections, to do the inspections and switch people off that have not been paying. You know, even because this is not about people just ordinary citizen households. It's also the commercial entities that have had this problem of or caused this problem of illegal connections. So I've seen people commenting on that, and you can see that people are fed up with the criminality in the communities. How people, like there was one case where there was it became like their own mini substation in a shack. You know, those things, they actually amount to economic sabotage. And I think that with us as the regulator and other parties working together to combat this scourge, it's going to help a lot. Even now, the act from our side has been kind of strengthened in terms of Section 35 of this Electricity Regulation Amendment Act 38 of 2024. That section allowing us then to take to penalize those that are found stealing or breaking electricity infrastructure. Because as a country, infrastructure is key for development, and therefore we should not allow anything that undermines that. Hence my call for also municipalities to look at their bylaws in working in tandem with all the parties that are involved. And social media and media in general is key at all levels. Let's not wait. Sometimes people do wrong things at municipal level. We just turn a blind eye. We only raise it when a person is maybe going to a higher position. You know, we shouldn't behave like that. We should deal with things from the point of view of wanting people to do the right thing and not trying to stop a person from getting into a particular position.
I've also seen that NERSA actually uses social media to put out live streams of your meetings sometimes, the ones where you're looking for public comment, and then you're allowing the public to see this is what we are actually doing.
It is a way of also admitting on our side that we don't have the monopoly of wisdom, and we're saying that it is in the collective wisdom that we can be able to move this country forward. And when we consider certain things, we could be looking at something from one angle. Someone else can come and look at a different angle, then helps us to have decisions that are actually more useful and helpful in terms of the cause and the imperatives of the Republic. Hence, we also, by way of our law, we were required to have those public meetings, which help in a way, because if you are in the public domain and then you are forced also to make sure that you apply your mind and you take decisions that are actually in the interest of the country, as espoused in the objectives of the legislation that you administer.
Yeah, it's just take a little different tack now. What are your concerns around the increasing use of gas in the South African market from the regulator's perspective?
You know, South Africa, in terms of the blueprint energy policy, which is the white paper on energy policy of 1998, it advocates for an energy mix. And I hear that sometimes from time to time, you hear people saying that gas is polluting, is still not helping, and all of that. I think we must be able to look at our reality and look at how we transition. Look and say that there is scope for every energy carrier to play a role in this economy. And we see how then we face it. I think the just energy transition aspect also weigh in here. But as also articulated by Dr. Ramokgopa, Minister Ramokgopa, in his keynote address, is that, you know, it's no longer just about transitioning gas. We need this base load capacity to be able to then build on it. You have seen, like yesterday in Cape Town, how the weather was like. You will not get your wind or your solar working. And I think the recent events in Portugal and Spain have kind of highlighted the need to say, consider if you go way beyond 30% of penetration of renewables, you could find yourself having challenges. And therefore, there is scope for gas. Let's start off just from that perspective that it's going to help in terms of baseload capacity. In the same vein that nuclear does have a role to play. You know, now the issue is that there are concerns, and those concerns need to be addressed. Firstly, is the issue of just the sheer availability of gas. We're relying on gas coming from Mozambique via the Teman and Pande fields, you know, through the Romco pipeline coming into the country. This gas agreement between the two countries that actually helped to unlock that portion. And that gas was said to be going to run out in 2026, but then it was then later said, okay, it's going to be 2028 with the so-called gas cliff. So there's a challenge about that availability, and also the issue of monopoly, because it currently is mainly one company that is dominating. So we also need to consider all of those things, you know, in terms of gas. So you've got just the availability of gas. Yes, there are issues of saying now bring gas as LNG from the high seas. Know that there's gas available in Mozambique, but it doesn't mean that because gas is here next door, it is then just freely available to you to know. It could already have been spoken to by other parties, you know, and find itself going to other destinations. That is an issue that the business people and those involved must then discuss and get the gas into the country. But already there are licenses, registrations for importing gas via Richards Bay and also Kucha, as well as Saldanha Bay. At Richards Bay, for example, we've got Transnet pipelines and Vopec who are working now on the importation of LNG. And now to also look at the network, the piping network, because this issue of the network of gas is not a new thing, actually. It comes all the way from the days of Park Issa, where there was a look at how the network, how to evolve, you know, because you see with this infrastructure project, there's a lot of upfront investment that is also required. You need to be able to time how you then put infrastructure and let infrastructure lead, and then the supply follow, or vice versa. And when you invest, you must invest in step changes, because you must not look at the demand now. You must look at the demand now as well as going to the foreseeable future and be able to phase these things in. So that also the issue of infrastructure development. Hence also currently with this Richards Bay project is then to look and say, now there's this possibility of reversing the line to the flow to Secunda instead of from Secunda, and then you get the one going to Durban. So there are these things that you must be looked at in terms of infrastructure. But then when you bring LNG, it's another challenge that you bring in now in terms of the all these rent dollar exchange rates, and we don't want to dollarize the market. There are these issues in terms of how then to deal with the variations, in prices. Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting times for you.
It's interesting times because it's nice when you try to come up with solutions for your country, because you feel also that what you are doing is worthwhile doing. Yeah.
There's definitely worthwhile work going on at NERSA.
It's just that now also on the gas side, we need to also look at, the laws in terms of how then, because the gas act has been in the process of being amended now for a long time. When I was still in the department, I was involved in the first attempt to amend the gas act. It's a couple of years ago now. It's in excess of almost 10 years. And we should do better in terms of making sure that legislation is actually is in step with the changes in the sector.
Well, thank you so much for coming into the studio and talking to us.
It's always a great pleasure to talk to you.
We look forward to seeing you again.
Looking forward to.
And thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned for the next episode.